So good.
Doesn't it smell good?
So I think we're done.
Well, this is good. We're
Yeah.
almost done.
Yeah.
And we've done a very nice job.
But I was thinking, dog bed things you can put dried lavender.
You could. Dried lavender in a dog bed. That's an excellent idea. So now we've harvested our wonderful lavender, and can you believe that that fairly small amount of plants gave us this wonderful harvest? And you all did a super job because everything's laying the same way and it looks beautiful. Okay, tell me who's done distillation. I know some of you have because you were here last week for the rosemary. Anybody else? Okay, great.
Yay.
This is exciting. What I'm going to do is, this here is called the retort. And we put the lavender, or the plant we're going to distill, inside the retort. And with distillation, what we're wanting is the steam is going to come up through here. There's actually an element in here and a grid that's going to keep the plant above the water. Now, lavender is really interesting in that each plant is different to distill. Lavender is interesting in that it is not a plant that you want to have a lot of water on the plant, because the ester, anyone remember the name of it? Linalool acetate, good job, will actually partially dissolve in water. And so if you have a lot of water in your retort, you will get a wonderful lavender hydrosol. It will have a lot of linalool acetate in it, but you'll get a reduced quantity in your oil. So today we're just going to have water just a little way up our sight glass, and we really have to watch it because we don't want this to burn dry. There is an element in here, so if we need to, we can introduce water through this valve here. Whereas with rosemary, which I did last week, we were able to put water quite high up the sight glass, so it was a little bit different.
So the water level in the glass that we're seeing is also the water level in the...
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the sight glass, and it's going to show you the level in the retort.
And that's the whole purpose of this. It has no other purpose except for telling us how high the water is.
Since we have an electrical element in here, we've got to be really careful about the way we place our metal grid. We don't want it to touch the element, or it can short the element out. So I always stand up and make sure I'm really getting it in over the, see these legs, I don't want them to be touching the element. And when I clean it out, of course I have to take this out. So I make sure I put that in very carefully, not touching. This equipment, by the way, was designed by my husband, Robert Seidel. He owns the Essential Oil Company. He has been a distiller now for 30 odd years. I've only been a distiller for like 15 years. And it really is a lifelong education. I mean, each time you do a plant it's different, each plant is different, so it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's really an exciting thing to be involved in. He designed these stills. He does stills of all sizes. Some of his stills are really small, and you can do them on your tabletop in your kitchen. A lot of fun. So we have our grid in there.
Yes, the whole size of this
yes,
building.
some of them are very large, and he is actually setting up a commercial distillery over in Selwood. So when that's ready, we'll let you know. What we have here is the condenser, and just to give you an idea of what happens in distillation, we're going to put water in here. The water is going to heat up. We're going to pack the material in first, and we're going to pack it in tight. We don't want any holes in the material, because think about what steam likes to do. It likes to follow the path of least resistance, right? It's going to try and escape. So packing it tight ensures that it's not, going to find its way this way and leave all this lavender not touched. And I'm not sure why, but they call the holes in the plant and retort rat holes, maybe because rats also find little holes to get through. I'm not sure, but we don't want any rat holes in our retort. So we're going to pack it tight, and I'll show you how we do that. We're then going to boil the water that we've put in, and the water creates steam, and the steam is forced up with really no pressure, because there's no pressure in this unit. And that's a good thing, because we don't want a lot of heat, because with a lot of heat and pressure you can actually reduce the value of the oil, reduce the quality of the oil. the steam is going to come up and move through the plant material, and it actually takes the cell, and here is our wonderful lavender cell that's full of essential oil, and it's going to help it to release, and it's suspended in the oil. It doesn't dissolve in the water. The oil actually suspends in the steam.
So it's a transport system, really.
It really is, and it dances along up into here, which is called the gooseneck, down through here into the condenser. Now I'm going to get this set up so it's ready before we put our plant in, and basically I have to just align it so our condenser is situated so we can easily get it into the separator, because what happens here is we're going to pipe cold water into this, and this condenser is full of a coil, and the cold water, which I'm going to pump in using this little pump with cold water in here, is going to be pumped in here and keeps the coil cool. And as the steam comes down, what happens when steam cools? Turns back into water, and the water comes out of here, and the water, as we know, is called our hydrosol or hydrolat, and the oil actually sits, some can sit on top, some oils will float to the bottom. That depends on the specific gravity, which is something you learn when you study aromatherapy. It's a little more involved, and you probably haven't got to that yet in Aroma 101, but you will. You will. Specific gravity is important because it's an important way to gauge whether an oil has been cut or diluted in some way. And like any industry, the essential oil industry, you know, you really have to really look at the quality of your material, because a lot of these oils are incredibly expensive. And in the past, when lavender oil became, you know, really good lavender oil, Lavandula angustifolia, became difficult to get, they were cutting it with either synthetic linalool acetate, which actually still goes on today, so that's really important to be very confident of your supplier. But they also cut it with an interesting oil called Japanese show oil, and it's the Labiatae family in a very similar level of linalool acetate, but not an oil that we would want in our lavender. So all of those things affect the specific gravity, but today we're not going to get too much into that. So without further ado, we're going to start packing our plant into the retort, and everyone's welcome to come up and take a bundle and start packing it. But let me just show you how we So at the beginning, I like to really put it in very carefully to ensure that I'm sort of crisscrossing the flowers and the stems. And it's good that we didn't cut a lot of stem, because you know the leaf, the oil is in the flower, so we don't want, there is some in the leaf and stem, but not a lot, so we don't want a lot of stem in our material. And what I'm doing here is just creating a really good base and pushing it in quite hard. Now in the big commercial stills in France, where we have gone for summer school on quite a few years, you'll see that they actually have this huge tire filled with concrete, and they bring it over the still, which is enormous. I mean, it would be half the size of this room, and they drop it on the retort. Either that, or you get about 10 men up there, you know, doing the dance, just like pressing grapes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
That's great.